What's up, space flight enthusiasts and scale modelers? Welcome to a model rocket kit review. I'm your host, Ray. Today we'll be discussing the new 1:200 scale Artemis 1 Space Launch System kit made by AMT. I'll go over the kit's features and the building process, and at the end I will give my personal opinion about what I think of the kit and who I would recommend it to. This will be a pretty long and in-depth video, so sit back, relax, and prepare for liftoff. This kit is brand new, having been released in 2023. The tooling for the parts in this kit is a new design as well. The box is a large two-piece top-opening cardboard box. Both halves of the box contain an extensive amount of art and information about the kit and the Space Launch System rocket. The bottom half of the box contains a decal placement guide on the four sides covered by the top half. The back side of the box features pictures of the assembled rocket and more information about the Artemis program. Included in the box are an instruction sheet, decal sheet, information booklet, and several parts trees which house 38 plastic parts to assemble the rocket and display stand. These parts are made from white styrene plastic. Once fully assembled, the rocket on its own stands 19¼ inches or 49½ centimeters tall, which is accurate to 1:200 scale. Mounted to the base, the rocket stands at 20½ inches or 52 centimeters tall. The instructions do a nice job with explaining the assembly process. They are clear and easy to understand. Assembling the parts in this kit is easy, simple, and straightforward. There are no complex or noticeably difficult assembly steps in this kit. The parts fit together well, requiring little to no sanding or filling when assembled. Prior to the paint application process, I recommend assembling everything except the core stage bottom, RS-25 engine exhausts, system tunnel, pressure line, both liquid oxygen feed lines, and the aft skirt thermal barriers on the solid rocket boosters. Keep these parts separate to make the painting process easier, then assemble them once finished. Where things get tough with this kit is paint and decal application. Unlike most plastic kits, the instructions do not include specific paint colors to use when painting this kit. The most a modeler gets in terms of which colors to select is this half-hearted message on the side of the bottom half of the box.
It's amazing, all these facilities and you make a piece of crap like this.
This doesn't help at all since the orange colors on the core stage are inherently difficult to recreate when mixing your own colors. To paint the rocket itself, I used 7 different colors. They are as follows: pure white, cream white, orange yellow, orange brown, black, gray brown, and silver or chrome. Once you have your colors sorted out, the real challenge comes with applying them. I experienced the most difficulty with the orange colors on the core stage. For my build, I opted to follow the pattern on the box instead of using images of the real rocket for reference, since doing that was way beyond my skill level. The paint scheme on the box is not 100% accurate, but it does the trick. The images on the box are decent, so recognizing the pattern wasn't too difficult. Painting, on the other hand, was a nightmare. To paint this kit, I used an airbrush, masking tape, and a paintbrush. For the Launch Vehicle Stage Adapter, or LVSA, I airbrushed the orange-yellow color as a base coat first. Then I used masking tape to mask the lines that span the circumference of the LVSA. There are 16 lines in total, 4 of which align exactly with the front, back, left, and right side of the rocket. There are no raised or recessed line details to refer to the exact location of the yellow-orange lines on the LVSA, so the modeler needs to eyeball the placement of them. Here's a diagram I made that helped me place the lines somewhat accurately. Next, I used hole puncher-sized circles to mask the light orange circles behind the black panels on the LVSA. After masking, I airbrushed the orange-brown paint onto the LVSA. For the rest of the core stage, I airbrushed orange-brown on as a base coat. Then I used masking tape to block off the correct sections, after which I airbrushed lighter orange-yellow. With regards to the remaining colors, I used pure white for the solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, the core stage bottom, parts of the pipes, and the housing for the Orion spacecraft. The cream white is applied to the solid rocket booster nose sections, aft joints, skirts, parts of the pipes, and the bottom of the core stage. Black paint can be used for the black stripes on the solid rocket boosters and the inside of the SRB exhaust nozzles. Gray-brown goes onto the RS-25 core stage engines. Silver paint goes onto the pressure lines and the aft skirt thermal barriers. The included decals are standard waterslide decals like on most other model kits. The decals for this kit are quite extensive, and they do a good job at replicating most of the details on the SLS rocket. However, I do believe the decals should have been included for the top black stripes on the SRBs, since those would have been extremely difficult to paint. I used spare decals to recreate those stripes. When finished with decal application, a few extra decals are left over. Here are the ones I was left with. The decals in this kit allow for the modeler to create the launch configuration or pre-launch configuration of the rocket, hence why there are extra decals left over. The others are just unused. With regards to the quality of the decals, I personally did not like the decals in this kit at all. They are very thick and they do not conform to surfaces easily. Even with strong decal softener, these decals barely conform to surfaces. I had particular trouble with the decals on the solid rocket boosters, since there are many uneven surfaces where the decals go to. Notice the significant air gaps under the decals. To give you an idea of how tough these decals are, I use Walther's Solvaset decal softener. This stuff melts decals onto the surface of your model. However, with the decals in this kit, the Solvaset had no effect. Placing the decals is tough already, but figuring out where they go in the first place is even harder. The decal guide on the box is hard to read and understand. For some decals, the guide doesn't even show the correct orientation for the decal. A specific instance of this is the loaded labels on the solid rocket boosters. They look like tiny scribbles on the box rather than readable pictures. For reference, the L in loaded should always be pointed towards the ground as shown here. The second D should be pointed towards the top of the rocket. As if things couldn't get any worse, there aren't even enough of some of the decals to build the rocket correctly. Decal 14 is used 5 times on the decal guide, yet there are only 4 provided in the kit. The included display base is a simple base with an Artemis logo on it. There are no decals needed for it, and assembling the component is really simple. Painting it is relatively easy as well. It holds the rocket through 2 pegs that go into holes in the SRBs. The fit between the base and the rocket is tight, and the base is sturdy. There is virtually no risk of the rocket falling over with the included base. Once I finished painting everything and putting on the decals, I covered the model in several coats of matte clear coat and gloss clear coat, and then I was done. Overall, this kit is decent. Assembly is straightforward and simple, but fine detailing is difficult. Tough decals and less than adequate paint guides are partially to blame for this. In AMT's defense, this rocket is inherently difficult to recreate as a scale model, considering how many fine details are present. Still, AMT could have done a better job with the paint guide and the decals. Regardless of this, if done correctly, this kit allows you to create a solid replica of a new era in spaceflight history. Moving on to my recommendation. I would recommend this kit to just about anyone. If you're a beginner looking to buy your first kit, and you aren't too concerned with accuracy and fine detailing, you'll appreciate the simplicity of this kit. If you're more serious about detailing and accuracy like me, it's possible to get a really nice replica of the Space Launch System if you do things right. Regardless of who you are, this kit requires patience and a steady hand to build. It has its challenges, but it's not impossible to build. For being the first and likely only kit of the SLS rocket in a long time, this kit is pretty good. Now, making this video and not mentioning AMT's Saturn V kit would be borderline illegal. I built the Saturn V kit in January of 2023. I posted a review of that build as well, link in the description and the pinned comment. The SLS kit isn't as interactive as the Saturn V kit, but it's definitely easier to build. Both kits are equally difficult to paint, but the decals on the SLS kit are much harder to work with. Overall, I'd recommend both kits to anyone in the demographics I mentioned earlier. If you're asking about the skill level required to build either kit, I'll say this: if you can build one of these kits, you can build both. And that's all for today, folks. Now that I've done my best to answer all of your questions about this kit, I have one question for you. Who did it better, Artemis or Apollo? Just kidding, of course, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more model aircraft and spacecraft content. Like, comment, and subscribe. Happy building, happy collecting. Take care of yourselves, See you next time.